There's something quietly heartbreaking about the way an elder answers when you ask how they're doing. You might hear them say, "Oh, I'm all right," followed by a faint smile and a shrug of the shoulders. Sometimes they add, "Just a bit worn out these days. Nothing serious." And with those words, most people move on, thinking it's just the usual aches and age catching up. But for those who truly pay attention, who really see the subtle shadows in their eyes and the way their voice lingers just a second too long, you know there's more behind it. That phrase, gentle, almost offhand, is often not about physical weariness at all. It can be a quiet disguise for something much deeper, an emotional heaviness that has built up slowly over the years, layer by layer. It's a kind of inner erosion that doesn't scream out for attention but sits patiently beneath the surface. Sometimes it's the absence of people who once filled their lives with laughter. Sometimes it's the feeling of being left behind by a world that moves too fast. Other times, it's simply the realization that more of their life is behind them than ahead, and that truth, while calmly accepted, can still press down on the soul like dusk settling in. So when they say they're fine or speak of being a little low on energy, don't take it at face value. There may be a whole landscape behind those words, waiting to be noticed with gentleness and care. If you believe in listening more closely to the people who've walked before us, take a second now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. This space exists to honor stories often left untold. Number 1, it could mean they're carrying a quiet grief no one else can see. Sometimes, when an elder speaks softly about their state of being, what they're really doing is protecting you from the grief they've learned to carry in silence. They've lost people, partners, siblings, best friends, even children, and over time, society teaches them to keep going. To smile politely. To hold those memories in their chest like fragile glass, careful not to drop them into anyone else's day. But grief doesn't vanish. It simply grows quieter, learning how to live within someone without demanding constant attention. And over the years, that sorrow can become a second skin. Not overwhelming, not dramatic, just ever-present. When they speak about not feeling their best or not being up for company, it could be because their heart has taken them back to a moment they never wanted to relive. Maybe they passed by a smell that reminded them of their spouse's cooking. Maybe a song came on that echoed through the halls of their youth. Or maybe it was nothing at all, just the silence of the morning reminding them that someone they loved dearly is no longer here to fill it. And rather than let those emotions spill over, they hold them back with practiced grace, offering you only the simplest version of their truth. A truth soaked in remembrance. Number 2, it might mean they're overwhelmed by a world that no longer feels familiar. In the eyes of many elders, the world today spins like a carousel that never slows down. And though they've spent lifetimes adapting, through wars, through revolutions, through rapid shifts in culture and technology, there comes a point when the rhythm of modern life begins to feel alien. It's not just about gadgets they don't understand or slang they've never heard. It's deeper than that. It's the sensation of walking through a landscape they once knew intimately, only to find that the landmarks have changed, and the language of the people around them has become foreign. When they sit quietly in the corner during a family gathering, it's not always because they lack energy. Sometimes, it's because the speed of the conversation leaves them behind. The inside jokes no longer include them. The topics feel disconnected from the values they were raised with. And instead of interrupting, instead of saying, "I feel like I don't belong here anymore," they let the room spin while they anchor themselves in silence. It can be lonely to feel like a guest in the very world you helped build. But rather than complain, they carry that disconnection gracefully, hoping that someone will take the time to slow down, sit beside them, and speak in a language that feels like home again. Number 3, it may be their way of saying they're no longer needed like they once were. Purpose is one of the most powerful forces in life. For so long, our grandparents and elders were pillars, the people everyone turned to for advice, for meals, for discipline, for comfort. They had roles that anchored them in identity. They were providers, nurturers, caretakers, protectors. But as time marches on, those roles begin to shift. Children grow up. Families become independent. And before long, those same elders find themselves sitting on the sidelines, watching others take the lead. This change isn't usually met with bitterness. In fact, many accept it with grace. But the quiet truth is, it leaves a void. When they say they're not feeling quite themselves, it can be their way of expressing a sense of invisibility that's hard to articulate. They may not want to say out loud that they feel left behind, that they miss being asked for help, for wisdom, for guidance. They don't need to be the center of everything anymore, but being seen, being valued, being asked, "What do you think?" can mean more to them than any gesture of care. Without that sense of being needed, even the most peaceful life can begin to feel hollow. And so, their restlessness is not just about age, it's about the fading of a role they once held with pride. Number 4, it could be that they're quietly processing all that they've outlived. To live a long life is a blessing, but it is also a profound emotional challenge. Because the longer one lives, the more goodbyes they must endure. Friends, neighbors, siblings, even the people they never thought they'd lose, all gone, one by one. And there's a particular ache in being the one left behind, not because of guilt or regret, but because of the sheer accumulation of loss. Each goodbye leaves an invisible mark. And even when surrounded by love, there is a unique loneliness in knowing how many faces are missing from the present. It changes how they see each day. Moments that seem ordinary to others, a morning breeze, the sight of a bird on a fence, the sound of a door creaking open, can trigger memories so vivid they almost hurt. But they don't say this out loud. They don't want sympathy. They don't want to weigh down the younger ones who still have decades ahead. So they sit, quiet, reflective. And if you ask how they're doing, they might simply say they've been keeping to themselves lately. What they don't say is that they've been having long conversations in their minds with people who no longer exist in this world, but who are still very much alive in their heart. Number 5, when they say they're fine, they might be holding back 1,000 feelings. It's one of the most common phrases, "I'm fine." Short, simple, dismissive. But from an elder, those 2 words can carry so much unsaid emotion. Sometimes they say it because they don't want to be a burden. They've spent their whole lives putting others first, raising kids, caring for parents, supporting families. Now that their turn has come to be vulnerable, it feels unnatural. So instead of explaining the emptiness they might feel, or the confusion of a world that's no longer familiar, they simply say, "I'm fine." But if you look closer, at the way their hands fidget, the way their eyes drift, or how long they sit alone, you'll know that fine isn't always the truth. It's not about hiding something malicious. It's about protecting others from the weight of what they carry. Because deep down, they hope you'll ask again. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stay long enough to hear the real answer. Number 6, silence can be their way of saying they feel forgotten. Not every elder will tell you they're lonely. Some will never use the word at all. Instead, they'll get quieter. They'll stop expecting phone calls. They'll wait for visits that don't come. And eventually, they'll stop bringing it up altogether. The silence isn't bitterness, it's surrender. A quiet understanding that the world has moved on, and they don't want to chase it. When they sit by the window for hours, or keep a TV on just to feel like someone's in the room, that's not just routine, it's survival. They aren't asking for much. Not grand gestures. Just presence. Just to feel remembered. So when they say they're just resting or don't need anything, sometimes what they mean is, "I wish someone needed me again." Number 7, the weight of their memories can be more exhausting than we know. Imagine carrying a library inside your mind, shelves filled with stories of joy, heartbreak, war, laughter, betrayal, and hope. That's what the elderly live with. Every glance, every familiar smell, every quiet moment can bring back something sharp and real. But they don't always share these stories, because some are too heavy, and some feel like no one would understand. They may sit still on the outside, but inside, they are constantly visiting the past, reliving things they haven't told anyone in years. Sometimes it's a child they lost. Sometimes it's a goodbye that came too soon. And even the beautiful memories, the weddings, the births, the love stories, can feel bittersweet when there's no one left to remember them with. This emotional load builds up slowly, quietly, and yes, it drains them. Not because they're weak, but because memory is its own kind of work. And they've been doing it alone for a long, long time. Number 8, they sometimes feel their purpose has passed. In their younger years, elders were the center of the family. They made decisions, gave advice, fixed what was broken, literally and emotionally. But now, many of them sit on the sidelines. They watch from a distance as younger generations take over, move on, and grow busy. This change is natural, but it's not easy. When they say they're tired, or when they pull away from conversations, it may be because they're struggling with a question they don't want to say out loud: am I still needed? Purpose is a powerful thing. Without it, even the strongest heart can begin to feel invisible. So they stay quiet. They smile and say they're okay. But what they long for, more than anything, is to feel useful again, to know that their stories, their experiences, and their presence still matter in a world that moves faster every day. Number 9, sometimes, all they want is to be seen with gentle eyes. At the end of the day, more than rest, more than medicine, more than solutions, what elders crave most is to be seen. Not as fragile, not as outdated, but as full human beings who still feel deeply, still hope, still dream in quiet ways. When they say they're tired, it could be their way of saying, please look a little closer. Look past the wrinkles and slow steps. See the child they once were. The mother they became. The battles they've fought. The love they've given. Let your eyes tell them, without words, I see you. I honor you. You still matter. Because to feel seen is to feel alive. And even in their final chapters, they still have stories left to share, if only someone would stay long enough to listen. So next time your grandmother says she's tired, or your grandfather shrugs and says he's just feeling a little off, pause. Look closer. Don't rush to fix it. Sit with them. Be present. Because more often than not, they're not asking for solutions, they're asking for connection. They want to feel like someone still sees their soul. Not just their age, but their story. And in giving them your time, you give them something far greater than rest. You give them belonging. If this message moved you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. These stories matter, and so do the people in them. Let's never stop listening.